Hello, everybody, and welcome to our series, Innovating. As a news anchorman, I've been following Israel's unique innovation boom, especially in recent years when Israel has become officially a startup nation. Israel is just one example. Places like Shenzhen, London, Singapore, and of course Silicon Valley are boiling with new ideas, turning to new products and services. So join us now for a journey to explore the future of future by connecting with people who are leading this field. First, a few words from Professor Yesha Sivan, who first coined the term innovating.
When I reflect on what drives me, as well as what drives the world today, or perhaps should drive the world today, I can definitely say innovation. Innovation is more just than creativity or ideas. It is the realization of these ideas into solutions that create value. Value for all the stakeholders, the innovators, their funders, the users of the innovation, and society at large. What makes the innovation age more interesting, in both the positive and negative sense, is the claim that innovation as a process is changing. Innovation will take more energy compared with other organizational functions. There will be more failures. It will be industrialized. There will be more suppliers of innovation, and there will be more partners in the process of innovation. Leading innovation, whether you run a 5-person company or a 100,000-person corporation, will feel like driving a race car while redesigning the engine and replacing it all at the same time. This is what we call innovating. What has been innovation in the 20th century is evolving. We need new kinds of innovation, new ways to fund innovation, new platforms for innovation, new government policies. Most importantly, we need new and more innovation leaders. That is why we chose to focus our series, Innovating, on the individuals that have created innovation in their own field. Join us to the journey of innovating.
Our guest today is Mr. Chemi Peres, founder of numerous venture capital funds, including Pitango, with over $2 billion of investments in over 250 companies around the world. Pleasure to have you here, Mr. Peres.
Thank you so much.
Obviously, I'd like to start with your late father, Shimon Peres, a towering figure, Nobel Prize winner, a man of peace, a man of great vision, who always looked at the future, always looked to innovate in every field.
That's true. My father did not really look into the future. He tried to transition himself into the future and be there. And while being there, understand what is the agenda that is derived for today. What do we need to do today in order to safely be there tomorrow? And he believed that we are in a transition of an era, from an old era to a new one. For him, the old era was where greatness came from territory, from land and natural resources. And the new era is an era of science and technology, an era of the mind, where everything human beings need will be able to achieve through our brain power, imagination, dreaming, and execution. So he was a great believer in innovation as a tool to move into the future safely.
And even in his 90s, he connected to innovators and to the younger generation.
Always. He understood that in this transition to the new era, the power of companies, global enterprises, innovators, and entrepreneurs is going to rise, and their responsibility to take care of the human condition going forward is increasing. He thought that the world governance is changing. The power of governments is going down. They lack the financial resources and the ability to act for the benefit of human beings. And he believed that the great innovators will be the ones to solve our problems and to deal with the global threats that are replacing the wars between nations. He understood that the empires of tomorrow are the empires of the mind.
And now you try to keep this legacy alive at the Paris Center in Tel Aviv, Israel. Tell me about it.
The legacy is alive and kicking because the legacy is all about tomorrow. The benefit of carrying the legacy forward is that you don't have to spend time on trying to remember what he said or what he did, but really what he was expecting to do and what he thought is ahead of us. So it's a forward-looking legacy. It's a very different legacy than many other people. We are looking at the road that he wanted to walk, and that's what we try to do. The way to implement it is by launching the Israeli Innovation Center, a magnificent building that is situated on the Mediterranean Sea that he built for the Paris Center. We're turning it into a visitor center where you will be able to experience for yourself this transformational journey from an old world to a new world. First, we will show you how the world can become better with science, technology, and innovation. We will show you the greatest achievements of Israeli innovations, from drip irrigation that revolutionized the agriculture and water markets, all the way to autonomous driving through Mobileye, and all the other innovations that some of us don't even know that they have been created in Israel. Not only that you see the innovation, you will be able to meet the people behind those great inventions and communicate with them and be inspired by their own personal story and understand for yourself that you can connect to the inner innovator and entrepreneur inside yourself. Those are not angels, those are human beings. And then we'll continue the journey after we created the impact and inspiration. We'll take you into the history of Israel, the innovation history, since we had universities before we had a state, and all the major events that carried us forward into a position of an innovation nation. We'll show you a glimpse into the future, how the world is changing in food, in healthcare, in transportation. And then we'll take you down and we'll show you what is happening right now in Israel. We show you tens of companies that are innovating as we speak to make the world better. We will use this center not only to showcase Israel of tomorrow, and not only to inspire our young generation to carry forward and imagine and dare to shape a new world, we plan also to take this model and expand it on a global basis. Mm-hmm. In our vision, in the next 10 decades, we'll have tens of innovation centers around the world that collaborate with us to create a global network of collaboration around innovation to shape a better tomorrow.
You founded one of the most successful venture capital funds, Pitango. What's your philosophy?
The strategy was basically to invest in Israeli innovators and entrepreneurs that are operating in a diversified group of technology sectors at different stages, while all of them are operating and approaching global markets. That was the initial philosophy. Be diversified by sector, diversified by stage, invest in Israelis, in Israel, in Silicon Valley, wherever you find them, and help them grow companies.
How do you know what's going to work?
In venture capital, you don't know. You have to dare. You have to take a risk. By the way, my father said that the smartest thing to do is to take a risk, or the riskiest thing to do is not to take a risk. And you know that in the venture business, inherently, you will have failures. But those shining stars that you will find that will grow, they will compensate for the failures of others. And over the years, I learned that the secret sauce is to connect to the entrepreneurs and try to find those who are outstanding entrepreneurs who can really build companies in a world that is changing so fast. You know where you start. You never know where you end. And the difference between the starting point and the end point is the quality of the people that you invest in.
So it's not only the idea, it's not only the technology, it's maybe even mainly the people behind it?
It's not only. Many people have different ways to approach it. They say team and theme and technology and other things. But I think at the end of the day, the most crucial element of whatever you do is the type of people you invest in. If you invest in great entrepreneurs, they will navigate, they will change, they will pivot, they will reinvent the company and make sure that it is growing in the right direction. They will understand where the market is going, they will understand the forces of competition, and at the end of the day, the real assets are the brain power of the people.
So you need some psychology and some brain analysis and some personality analysis when you come to decide where to invest.
Absolutely. I've seen great venture capitalists around the world. Some of them did not have any understanding in technology, but they had a sense of human beings, and they could understand vision, and they could subscribe to an idea and take the risk and move with it. And some of the greatest companies, really, if I would bring the entrepreneur to you today, young entrepreneur, no experience, in a market that is emerging, that is completely new, most likely, most of us will pass on the investment. Just look at Mark Zuckerberg at his 20s, building Facebook. Who believed it could be something so significant? So understanding markets and foreseeing the future is one of the toughest things as a venture capitalist.
So you've developed this sense for smelling what's going to work and who are the right people to do it.
Over the years, of course, you develop enough experience and sensors, and you know when a story that is being told does not make sense. But at the end of the day, you have to have the ability to connect to the human being, listen to the story very, very carefully, try to imagine, and then make a decision if you are investing or not. It's very tough. Every investment decision towards the deal making at the end of the day, there's always doubts and always some softness in the process. So you try to reduce the risk, you try to mitigate the risk, but at the end of the day, there is no way around it. You have to take the risk.
And I'm sure you have disappointments and regrets over the years. Yeah.
One of the advices I got early in the process as an investor is never be sorry for what you missed, because you'll have enough time to be sorry for what you did at the end of the day. But always, when a company is successful and you did not invest in it, you know, you feel a little bit of pain, but then, you know, by nature, I want all the entrepreneurs to be successful. And it's a fact of life that I cannot invest in every company I like. At the end of the day, the number of investments we can do out of a fund is very limited, and usually the rate is less than 1% of what we see.
I see, for example, that you invest a lot in healthcare.
Right.
Why?
I thought that the entrepreneurs, what they really want to do is they want to make the world better. And it's a way to participate in tikkun olam, the most important Jewish value of repairing the world. And I think that healthcare is one of those areas that by nature, whatever you do, is in order to contribute to what my father used to call a positive global human impact. Whatever you do is helping human beings suffer less, live more, have a better quality of life. So for us, it was a natural thing to invest in healthcare, even though I don't have a medical background, for that matter.
What other areas make you excited about the future, about innovation?
What makes us as a group very excited about the future, and something that we plan maybe to do in the next 5 years, is invest in quantum computing. We think that quantum computing is going to change the whole world of technology. It's taking the whole world of technology as we know it now.
Changing computers.
Basically everything. When you look at the ecosystem of technology, there's hardware, there's software, there are applications, there are networks, there's machine learning and AI. But I think that all of that is riding still on the technology of computers, of bits, where you have either 0 or 1, and you have deterministic processes. And you cannot accelerate the world with what we have right now. We're moving into an era of accelerated change, and you'll need a new generation of science and technology. And quantum computing, where you operate on the level of atoms, is going to offer us a new horizon of technology capabilities. So we're looking forward to that. Until that time, of course, we are excited about everything that has to do with automation, that has to do with artificial intelligence, connecting humans and machines, and giving us what wars used to give us in the past. Cheap labor. You know, in the past, countries went to war in order to enslave people so they can utilize cheap labor. Today, you don't need it because you have robots and you have automation. It allows us to flatten the world. It allows us to grow exponentially. Of course, I'm very excited about digital health. I'm very excited about autonomous driving. I'm very excited about cybersecurity because I think that this year, half of human beings are going to be connected to the internet, and we need to protect the internet. So all those innovations also emerge from Israel.
What drives Israeli innovation, in your opinion?
I would say three things. I would say the first one, not necessarily in the order of importance. I would say the first one is necessity. We have to innovate because we live on an island. We are disconnected. We don't have natural resources. We want to grow. We want to thrive. So we have to do it. So that's probably the first one. The second one, I think, is the anxiousness of Israelis to change the world for better. So it has to do with our values. It has to do with the notion that we are the chosen people in a positive way. We have a mission statement, and that mission is to change the world, to break through. The third one is what my father used to say is the Jewish character, which suffers from dissatisfaction. We're never happy with everything that we have. So necessity, values, and dissatisfaction, I think all of them together are making Israel so unique.
And on the character side, the fact that Israelis tend to improvise, they're undisciplined, they have this chutzpah thing.
Absolutely. We're a non-hierarchy environment and society. We are daring. We have chutzpah, as they say. It's very challenging when you try to do something in a very organized manner. But I do see the qualities of getting organized and getting things done. I think the way people think about Israelis has changed dramatically. Initially, when we did not have the responsibility on building companies and sustain them for the long run, we could improvise. And at the end of the day, a big company from the US or from Europe or from Asia Pacific would buy the company. But those days are part of the past. Today, Israeli companies are trying not only to innovate, but to break through and create a sustainable company. So I see Israelis as great leaders, as great managers, very creative, very organized, but at the same time, live in an environment that allow you to really innovate. And it's all about freedom. You have to give people the ability to be free, to dream, to think, to dare, to improvise. That's the way to do innovation. You cannot do it in an orderly manner.
Right. Which brings me to Asia. What kind of projects do you have in Asia and specifically in China?
Today, we have significant number of collaborations between us and the Chinese and the Koreans and Japanese and in general, also the Indians. And it becomes more significant in the Israeli ecosystem. The Chinese are now today very interested in the global race. When you look back and you try to understand the West and East conflicts, or not only between the West and East, you see that the first conflicts were around security and Cold War. Now we're in the midst of sort of a trade war, but I think that the real war will be about innovation. Who's going to be faster in adopting AI, genomic sequencing? Who's going to be first in quantum computing? Who's going to be ahead? It's not about to be first, you have to be ahead. For me, the most complicated thing is to capture in my mind the size and the numbers of the Asia-Pacific opportunity as I compare it to the Western world. But in terms of doing business and communicating, it becomes much more easier. We have today lots of investors from Asia Pacific. They co-invest with us. We do business with them. Many of our companies are expanding in Asia Pacific. So I think over time, it will be easier and easier. But you have to be patient.
There is a huge race going on, as you say, who's going to lead innovation.
Absolutely.
Any idea who's going to win?
Well, I talk to lots of CEOs from around the world who are operating on a global basis. I could say this. I think that the culture, the freedom, the values of Silicon Valley are still unmatched. And this is probably the most fertile ground for innovation and for building the new big things. But at the same time, when you understand what is happening in Asia Pacific, the number of talented people that are leaving the academia and are innovating and are exposed to the Western world is increasing, and their mindset and the way they can tunnel efforts on a national basis, I think it's going to be a very, very tough competition. Very tough. In many ways, I think the Chinese are ahead of the Americans in some areas that are very challenging. But I trust that both sides, at the end of the day, will run very, very fast and will be very close to each other. What we need to make sure, and this is something my father always spoke about, is that we have certain global moral values. Some of them suggested to be Jewish moral values, to make sure that the race of innovation, the transition into this new age, is done safely and successfully. Because as he noted, technology without morals is very dangerous, just like technology advancements without morality is not enough. I mean, you have to combine both of them. If you are just technologically, you can be immoral. If you are just moral and not advancing with technology, you may find yourself as poor.
Let me finish by asking you to give your best advice to entrepreneurs or investors. You choose.
I would say persistency, never give up. Focus on what you are trying to achieve. Believe in it. Don't overlook what is happening around you. Be open to listen, but stay very focused and very determined. In technology innovation, you have to cross a certain desert, and it's very tough. It's very hot, no water, it's very long, it's tiring. But at the end of the day, if you want to reach the other side, you have to be completely determined that you are taking this road and moving forward. So stay focused and be relentless.
With this, Mr. Hemi Peres, I thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Jacob. It was a pleasure to be with you.
Innovating for this time. See you next time.